Welcome back. Now, most investors create their portfolios by investing in familiar assets like stocks and bonds, which offer growth and diversification. However, some investors look beyond these traditional options to further diversify their investments, including blockchain. Joining me now with further insight is MD of Mesh.trade, Connie Bloem. Thank you so much for your time, Connie. Now, this is something that we actually have not discussed. So the raising of capital through a tokenized corporate bond based on blockchain technology. Talk to me about the emergence and the need for the Finance 3.0 space, but also really how it fits into the African landscape.
I think the tokenized space, specifically within the capital markets, is so important for the African landscape, not to mention the South African landscape, because Africa, and specifically South Africa's economy, is based on a large bank of entrepreneurs. And these entrepreneurs are always looking at growing their businesses and making them more relevant and bigger to make sure that they can tackle the problems of tomorrow. And especially within this space, capital is very scarce.
Yeah.
So generally, we see the larger players being able to acquire that capital through the traditional structures such as stock exchanges, or the smaller players can go via banks and venture capital funding. But there is the strong middle that is not served by the market currently. Going to the one side is too expensive for them, going to the other side is too small for their businesses, and they also have to give away a piece of that equity. But now this Finance 3.0 movement, especially with Mesh's involvement there, is creating new ventures and new channels into the market, or into the sphere of capital raising that these entrepreneurs truly need to build their businesses.
I mean, you talk about capital being scarce, but I guess also one would say that it is scarce for certain businesses. As a company that's looking to raise capital, what should make you want to go into this blockchain-based kind of capital raising alternative?
What should drive you into this space is a need to preserve or go for lower fees, I would say, is the first objective. The second objective is also to be able to raise capital from a wider market participants. So the one side that is very interesting within our market is that there's a strong retail component. We recently took a bond out to market and we had a 17% retail involvement in that bond, which is fantastic and unique for this segment. So definitely, if you want to have your community involved, if you want to have other people that you do business with involved, this is definitely a sphere for you to consider.
Well, it's quite interesting that you also bring in the retail investor, because we know with this space, there's a lot of institutional investment. In terms of, coming in as a retail investor, what do you get out of this? What are the levels of returns that you can expect? Then also, what makes this space attractive for retail investors?
So there's numerous things that make it attractive for retail investors. I think the first and foremost is that it's unique. It's something that retail investors could not traditionally interact with. And I think you and I would have both loved to be able to invest into Apple when we all thought it was still a food company. And now we're providing you with the opportunity to do more of that with all these smaller entrepreneurial ventures that are coming to board across the entire African continent. So you're looking at good quality companies coming into the capital raising sphere. They're providing an interesting return on investment, but they're also providing a different risk profile than what the retail investors are generally used to. So some of it would be a bit more risky and other ones would be a bit more weighed out in that risk as well.
Well, I mean, a lot of, the trust in the traditional finance ecosystem has to do with, compliance and, being stringent on that, so that investors do get the kind of returns that they are hoping for and that, they're promised. How then does this blockchain-based system navigate through that?
I think the South African regulator has made large strides in this space specifically. So there has been recently regulatory categories introduced for companies like ours to be involved in the market and also deal with retail investors and any institutional investor for that matter in a regulated and safe manner. So us being a regulated company and other companies also coming into the board being regulated as well, we can create that comfort for retail clients specifically to invest into some of these assets.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not just, tokenized bonds that are on offer in this alternative finance 3.0 space. Talk to me about some of the other options here and if you are offering them.
Definitely. So we have a full spectrum of assets that are available all on a tokenized form. And here the blockchain is a system for us. It's a way of ensuring that transactions can occur and accounting can happen. So just because it's on blockchain does not mean that it's now all of a sudden everything is cryptocurrency.
Okay,
so definitely there's cryptocurrency kind of assets. There's your NFTs that sometimes can be investable, sometimes not.
Yeah.
But then we have the more interesting things where we like to specialize and spend our time. So some of the traditional assets will be available here. So we just mentioned bonds. We have a very interesting preference share coming to market quite soon. Equities, ETFs, ETNs, all sorts of assets can be available in tokenized format as well.
And just lastly, as we wrap up the conversation, I think we have about 30 seconds, Connie. I mean, this finance 3.0 space, do you think that, it's there to overtake the traditional finance ecosystem or to maybe supplement and, fill a gap that the traditional finance system is not able to?
I think this is a system that is coming in to broaden the horizons, to make sure that the capital markets are more transparent, more accessible, and more easier to use for everyone involved. And that should be benefiting all economies, and that should be benefiting everyone that is participating within the capital markets.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and giving us insights into that space that we are unfamiliar with, but hopefully we can start to hear more noise about, of course, with the situation that we have in terms of capital scarcity for growing businesses. That was Connie Bloem from Mesh.trade.